The effects of childhood loneliness. We all feel lonely at times. It's a part of life. But the effects of childhood loneliness can be more far-reaching. You might think that loneliness is reserved for adults, but many children feel extremely lonely even when surrounded by other children. For them, childhood loneliness is a burdensome feeling that prevents them from feeling comfortable and moving forward. One definition of this feeling is the difference between the level of relatedness and connection with others that we perceive, that we desire. Perlman et al., 1981. Loneliness, like any other human experience, also touches and overwhelms children's coping resources, making them more vulnerable to significant clinical disorders such as depression. Loneliness in childhood is an evil that has no name, and which kills the soul little by little. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Loneliness in childhood. Children are often surrounded by other children at school, on the playground, or even at other children's birthdays. But despite their wealth of social contacts, they can feel very lonely. The fact that they are in contact with others does not save them from such feelings. After all, it is well known that perceived loneliness can exist in individuals with rich social environments. Kakshia et al., 2006. The period of life that borders childhood and adolescence is plagued by changes, some of which are quite profound, e.g., can the fact that children and young people have to change schools as they get older change or affect their entire interactive context? In fact, changes of this type can become factors that increase their risk of being imprisoned by loneliness. Loneliness in childhood is the greatest sorrow that can exist in the world, because it is the sorrow of an innocent being. Ernest Hemingway. Why do some children feel extremely lonely? Both children, young people and adults feel lonely at times. It's a part of life. In fact, research has found that around 3 to 4 out of 10 children aged up to 15 feel lonely. Yang et al., 2020. Girls experience this feeling more frequently and more intensely than boys. Furthermore, the perception of this unpleasant emotional state increases in the following cases. Zergser et al., 2021. Having a disability, being bullied, or having arguments with other children. Preferring virtual relationships instead of physical relationships. Having a different sexual orientation than the norm. Having parents with depression, anxiety and/or substance abuse. For these reasons, and for others that we explain below, childhood loneliness has come onto the public scene. In addition to having a significant impact on mental well-being, it is actually a potent risk factor for physical illness. In order to help children who suffer from loneliness, we therefore need to know how to identify them. No child should feel alone in this world, because loneliness is a poison that eats the heart. J.K. Rowling. The effects of childhood loneliness. Experiencing loneliness often increases the risk of also suffering from various clinical conditions. Research conducted on childhood loneliness suggests a specific pairing, namely social anxiety and depression. Myers et al., 2019. Furthermore, we know that people who experience this feeling more frequently are more likely to die early, regardless of how much money they earn, what education they have, their gender or ethnicity. This is due to the influence that loneliness exerts on the following parameters. Yang et al., 2016. Hypertension. Inflammation mediated by C-reactive protein. Increase body mass index and waist circumference. The magnitude of this effect is comparable to the effect of smoking and obesity or physical inactivity. Ulcers, URSA. As lonely children grow up, their loneliness may become chronic, and they may experience psychiatric symptoms. Signs of anxiety or substance abuse are, together with depression, the most frequently detected groups of clinical entities in these cases. On the other hand, childhood loneliness means that the described psychiatric symptoms can affect the individual's emotional and psychological universe throughout life. Zergs et al. 2021. Loneliness is also related to suicidal ideation. Goodfellow et al. 2023. How to help lonely children. It is crucial to create, develop and implement interventions that have the child's function in school as its core verse. The goal is to alleviate the negative effects that this feeling has when it is not just occasional but chronic, e.g. Will the promotion of greater attachment to the school context be a protective factor against potential loneliness? These interventions should also take into account the role played by the family. In fact, families who support their children about the loneliness they experience promote their psychological well-being. In this regard, appropriate communication and good ability to empathize with the children are essential. As it turns out, loneliness is an emotion that can have a devastating effect on children's minds. The school's educational psychologist is particularly helpful in cases of childhood loneliness. Programs that promote interaction with other children as well as various cognitive behavioral therapy techniques counteract the effects of this feeling, such as depression, anxiety and even suicide. Loneliness in childhood is the darkest night that can be in a child's soul, but love is the star that can guide it. Victor Hugo.